And as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line? Address it to the Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195 Charlestown in Nevis, or give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. Your voice in the community, thought that get results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized. And when getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. You can also follow our live video stream of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio and our YouTube channel, Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, thought that get results. Tonight, Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists, Naya. Also want to say a special good evening to all those who are listening and viewing via the various mediums. Good evening to you. Webbo, I want to thank you for the invitation yet again, and I want to encourage all those who are viewing and listening and remind them that this is a program that is interactive. Hence, we are hoping and we are encouraging you to participate, to call in. Your call can educate us, and of course we can educate you also. It's a conversation, so we want your participation. Webbo, I like to say, for those who are celebrating with the birthdays or anniversary, happy birthday, happy anniversary, and may God continue to bless and keep you. And for those who are mourning, I would like to say, may God be your strength, your pillar of rock, and may He console you, may find some solace in Him. I want to say a special good evening to the family of the late Roy Simmons from the Hanleys Road area. I want to encourage you to hold on to God. He will see you through, and just to be strong for each other. It's a closely knit family, the Simmons family in the Gingerland area, and we're asking you to continue to hold on to God. Webbo, I'm looking for a fruitful discussion as always, and as I said earlier, I hope that persons would call in and be interactive. And just before I wrap up my opening statement, Webbo, I want to say congratulations to you and the entire staff, both present and past staff, as you celebrate, the 37th anniversary of, broadcasting, keeping us up to date. Webbo, I dare say that the Voice of Nevis viewer in radio over the years has now become the gold standard of broadcasting in the entire region, in my opinion, that is. And I want to say kudos to you and your staff once again, and may God bless you, guide you, keep you and your staff, and Vaughan Radio may be able to go from strength to strength for, let me use your term, we're going to take up the multiplication table and we're going to multiply that 37 by 37 by 37 by 37. Thank you, Webbo, once again.
Conrad Nile Libert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your pleasant and hard-working staff here at Vaughan Radio. Just about to celebrate another year of being on air. Webbo, I want to say congratulations to you and your staff for earning that very special space in the life of Nevisians, and to be that mouthpiece for Nevisians, the voice of Nevis. You are truly the voice of Nevis, and I suppose anyone who thinks differently that they can reach Nevisians in a better way, sometimes going across the waters, surely making a mistake with that. Regardless of what, I think you have made your name. You have occupy a very special place in the soundtrack of our life here. I suppose, and I wish that you can have many more years going forward. It's you are not just a radio station to broadcast the news, but you sometimes play that very important role when there are difficult situations coming ahead of the forecast, hurricanes and other things. Nevisians can't ask for more from a radio station which is privately owned. It sometimes even feel like it's owned by the government, and is it? But Webbo, I just want to congratulate you guys. I can't, find the pleasant words to really, exemplify you and your staff and the institution of Phone Radio, which I personally think it's a great example to other organizations, to Nevisians, other radio stations. 37 years of being on the air as a privately owned station. I know you have swim many deep seas and scaled many high mountains to be there for 37 years, and I must tip my hat for your endeavor and your strength and whatever keep you going for so long. Webbo, again, we gather here tonight to discuss these issues affecting the people, and I want to say thank you for having me. I also want to hail up my friends in the international circle, and my friends in Canada, my friends in Connecticut, my friends in Florida, who are always in tune to this program, and I want to say a pleasant good night to them. And I want to say a pleasant good night to all Nevisians all over, I must say, home and abroad. You people who live in the diaspora are so important, and you seems to even be more Nevisians than the Nevisians today. We tend to be very, I almost said Nevis is filled with foreigners, I must say. I'm not sure if there are more foreigners than local now, or local than foreigners, and so that is something I want you guys out there to know. And so to remain Nevisians and to Nevisian and to focus and to be a part of our conversation is very important. It's very important. You seem to be more patriotic than even the Nevisians here sometimes, and you come here for our celebrations, Culturama. You come here for our elections, and we welcome you again very soon for another Culturama. And I guess we're going to be welcoming you again in about 2 years or 3 years for another election. So I want you to be a part of what goes on here. I want you to call in. I want you to tune into the program. I want you to exhibit the Nevisianness in you, and not just through politics, but through our culture and what is good of us all, Nevis people. Well, I want to thank you for having me once again on this beautiful program. I've been here for quite a while too. Without thinking, I've probably done almost 17 years, and that's a long time. And I want to thank you over and over again. And I want to thank the people of Nevis, and thank for the people who listen to Phone Radio, to have me in their homes on Tuesday nights and whenever, and to be almost like my critic sometimes. And I enjoy that. I enjoy the interaction that I get from this program. And I think we have a long way to go in terms of not just educating, but also to clarify a lot of issues. We here also like the interaction so that we can learn from the people. And so, welcome all tonight once again, Webbo. I think I've been blabbering on too long now, and thank you for having me. Thank you, Webbo.
Yes, Webbo, just before I go on, Webbo, I just want to say sympathy greetings to the Morton family on the passing of Walter. You know, so to his wife, Nurse Diane, please have my sympathy, and all of the other, his siblings, Mr. Curtis, and all of the others, Curtly and all of the others. Webbo, sometime recently I had a conversation, and I must admit, Webbo, that since the bath stream would have been renovated just recently, just last week was the first time I been down there in the day. I would have gone in the night to have a bath, but not in the day. And I want to say that it's really beautiful. The garden is really lovely. The ambience is breathtaking. And I invite persons, divisions, and all other persons visiting to go and have a look. And I want to remind us that we must take care of it. And remember, I'm saying this because in conversation with one of the workers, I was taken aback when the worker would have said to me, how they've been coming to work and finding the place in a filthy state, if I can say that. And that worker would have said to me that people would have gone there, they would have number 2 there, they would have found sanitary napkins, right. If we know where the first bath is, the first covered bath, right there between the stones. And not just sanitary napkins, but also underwears. And it appears as if that persons, for some reason, go to the bath stream, they use it, as all of us who go there do. But they leave their stuff behind for some reason or the other. And I want to make this appeal, Webbo, to persons, please be mindful, because I can put my finger on the block that those persons do not behave like that in their homes. So I want to encourage us to take care of the facility. It's a beautiful facility, Mr. Herbert. I really enjoyed it. I sat and I just relaxed. There are benches, there's a restroom, so there's no need. If you want to use the restroom, there are a number of persons who work there. I'm sure you can ask a question. So I just wanted to say that, Webbo, and I know our people are better than this. We are better. We grew up in a way that, I want to use some local parlance here. The old people say you get some brought up see. That's local parlance. So, I know that, we are better than that, and we can do better as a division society. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there, Webbo, and hope that persons would hear and, persons would understand, and we try and do better.
I agree with you in a lot of things you have said, but it happens that I was there on Friday night. I went to the bad stream on Friday night. Whereas a lot of beautiful things have been done to the ground, I think they need to pay attention to the stream itself.
Mm-hmm.
The ground is immaculate. It's beautiful, and I want to tip my hat to people like Sylvester Mead. I know he was very functional. He was working for government in that area, maintaining tourist sites and so forth. And I actually passed there and literally saw him piling up stone on one of the stone walls. He was very hands-on. I want to say thank you for him and his foresight. I think they have turned that area into quite a beautiful, well-landscaped, attracted area where you can surely relax and so forth. But when I went there Friday night, it was not about that. It was about basically soaking my feet, individual in the hot stream. And we didn't choose the pond. We got 1 or 2 or 3 ponds in the gutter area. We choose the pool. That pool area has a cover in it, mm-hmm. and it's always filled with water. The sides of the pool are tiles and so forth. And that's a place I've been many times. But Friday night, it was not so, I didn't walk away feeling very good about it at all. One, I find that the water was half the warmness. And just recently, you have not been on the program for a while, but we had that discussion here. And an individual who used to take care of the Bard Stream, he said everybody realized that the water is not very hot as it used to be, and he gave reasons for it, and he was asking that the administration, can do something about it, because he knows, according to him, how to fix that and how to kind of bring back the high temperature of the water. The water was, to me, less than half the heat. Very, very, very surprising to me.
Wow.
Very surprising. And what I realized under that shed too is that it doesn't seem like the water was flowing as it usually does, because when I arrived there was no one there, and for a while it remained quite like soapy, and
but then it's supposed to be soap.
And well, in the past when I go there, I always used to listen to the water like evolving, yes, and knocking against the wall. That wasn't happening at all, and I'm saying, well, this water is pretty steady. What's going on here? It looks like something is not bubbling as it used to, But I can assure you, the water wasn't very, very hot as I'm accustomed to. But one of the things that really turned me off, is, and I hate to say this about our great facility, the Bard Stream, it seems like people tend to urinate in the close vicinity. That, if not under the shed, on the stones, on the stones under the shed.
Yes.
And
not to cut you off, but that is one of the things that the individual told me to. And at mornings they would have to go down and try to sanitize it and stuff like that because of the stench.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and I was very moved by that, and I was like almost scornful to the water. I didn't want to go in at all, didn't want to put my feet in, because I'm saying it's either the stones or maybe somebody have urinated in the water, and because it's not flowing as it used to, there's that stagnancy and that stench, and I felt really bad, to be quite honest. I walk away feeling very, very, very upset about it, really, because I'm saying, okay, the facility now, a lot of work has been put into it, it's well decorated, looks nice and so forth, but something is missing as it relates to taking care of the stream itself, which is the very most important thing about the Bard Stream, and so I did plan to raise the issue when I come on this program, but you tend to you had your experiences there and you brought it up, and I would really ask the people not to, one, avoid peeing in the water, two, avoid peeing in around the streams, because it's not something good. To me, it's a very important facility, very, very important facility, and as it's been written there, I think it's home for two undersigned. I think it said something which reflect the importance and the historical the history of it, you know. I think it's first
settled in the Caribbean.
Yeah, something to that effect, you know. And so, please, yes, we must be very mindful. Workers must be ensure, and those who are responsible, they got to move fast in doing what is needed to really bring back the temperature, bring back that water temperature up to something is being stifled, you know, I believe. And so, you know, I support you fully in that, Mr. Fifield.
But now I'm really hoping that the relevant authority, you know, would have heard what you said tonight, and you would have stated that someone said that they have the knowledge of what to do to bring back the water to the temperatures of yesteryear. So I'm really hoping that they could really look into it, and maybe the individual can reach out, you know, to someone in tourism. I think he falls under tourism. You know, I think John Hanley is the PS of tourism. You would have spoke about Mr. Mead. You know, he, I think, work within the ministry also. And I think the whole idea of the architect was his brainchild. So if someone can speak to him also, I'm sure that he can, you know, relay the message. And something could be done. Something need to be done. So persons like you and myself and all others who go there could really, you know, sit back, relax, and enjoy how it is really intended to be enjoyed.
Yeah, you see that topic there? I addressed it about 2-3 weeks ago. And I'm going to go to something just after this. We could come back to it a little later on. We're celebrating 37 years tomorrow. A gentleman sent something here for me, which is very interesting. It's the Labour spokesman story that they did on the opening of Vaughan Radio back on June 18, 1988. So I'm going to read the story as well. Also, I'm going to play a clip, a segment from late Edric W. Stanley, who, by the way, we're featuring a lot of clips, programming that we've done over the past 37 years, this week and I think next week. And also, we have a special segment for Edric W. Stanley, in case he had contributed not only to Let's Talk, but to the radio station as a whole. Selfless contribution. And so I'm going to play a segment of that so folks can listen to it, and I'm encouraging them to listen all through the day and through the week and stuff like that. And let us know what you think, because we're excited about honoring Edric in that way. So I'm going to come to that next. But against that same backdrop of we're doing 37 years, it's 37 years of Let's Talk. And one of the things that I learned through the years, and I think it helped in my personal development, always be interested in hearing the other sides. Some people argue there's more than even two sides of the story. Always, when you hear one side and it's very, very convincing, search for that other side. I'm not saying don't tell the folks that you don't believe them. And I'm always cautious about carrying somebody's story who does not want to deliver it themselves. I learned a lot of things. concerning that. And so, when I sometimes begin to probe something, and then I begin to look at it objectively, and you see me just leave it, there'll be a reason why. A lot of folks, and I'm going to segue into an example with, you all remember when they had the lot of confusion with the electoral office and names off the list and all those things?
Yes.
Trusted gentleman called me, and he said, man, you wouldn't believe something with somebody with a passport, something, and stuff like that. And I said, really? And they were so convincing. And knowing me, I said, well, can I see a document? That ended that story. Had I gone and mentioned it, it would have already done its job.
Yes.
Right? So when people have stories that are so important and effective, but they want you to be the mouthpiece. I've heard, I have clips here of Edric saying, a lot of people keep telling me, man, you must say this, you must say that, and stuff like that. I'm not saying that they, but you very be aware of those. Because I have a way, I'm trained to ask questions. Sometimes I will just ask him a little simple question, and that even will end the story too. Now I'm going to go and play this clip. It's about 10 minutes, Edric Stanley, and then I'm going to read the story that the Labour spokesman did in 1988.
Reliable news, interesting debates, weather guidance, priority advertising, exceptional service. Where else? It's the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse. Join us as we celebrate year 37.
As we celebrate Von Radio's 37th anniversary, this was a Let's Talk program that was aired on May 26, 1998 on the topic Stolen EC Dollars in Montserrat.
I don't know if you were abreast of it, so let me try and read it quickly. It says the ECCB wishes to inform the public that a number of $5, $10, $20, $50, and $100 EC notes have been stolen from the Barclays Bank vault in Plymouth, Montserrat, and are currently in circulation in member states. The notes, all of which bear the letter M, are the property of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and have not been issued for circulation. They are not legal tender for any financial or other transaction. The notes in question carry the following serial numbers: 5s, A 238001M to A 24700M, 10s A 195001M to A 20500M, 20s A 371001M to A 37400M, 50s A 081001M to A 08700M, and 100s A 128001M to A 131000M. And it goes on to say, anyone now possessing or coming into possession of any of these notes is asked to note, and that should be asked to take them to the nearest police station. Business places should exercise extreme caution. One thing I'd like to say that is noticeable with the notes that are here, of course I don't know about the notes that were issued and are good, but all the notes here begin with A and M with N, and end with an M.
Webbo, I am in possession of that same circular, that same piece of paper, but a problem of this magnitude must be handled very delicately, and as a consequence I attempted to cover all my steps, and in terms of organization I reiterated that I attempted to contact the central bank through those two following numbers, and today being the 26th of May 1998, someone at the central bank might be able to bear me out with regard to those two numbers as to whether or not they were working today. I would have moved on to have given the same numbers, but like I said, I'm in possession of that same circular. However, now that the information regarding the notes and numbers and the statement from the central bank are out, the information obviously is out, and it means that the entire public within the Eastern Caribbean must take all precautionary measures to ensure that they do not hold a bogus bill for services rendered. People who in fact have rendered true services should be paid, and be paid forthwith with legal tender. Now, if for some reason someone holds this legal tender, this money that has not been in circulation, then it simply means that upon arriving at the police station, it would be somewhat taken from them, so to speak, confiscated by the police at the request of the central bank. Of course, the police station would hold these notes, and I would imagine that the central bank would redeem them at some later date. But no one has told me, and based on what the circular is saying, that the holder of these notes that have not been legally in circulation would not be reimbursed. And if this is the case, I think it is clear that a person who in fact is a holder of these notes would have lost some kind of money, whether it's a $5 bill, $10 bill, as the case might be. Whether it's a $5 bill, $10 bill, as the case might be.
You're suggesting, Edric, that the central bank ought to, as Prime Minister Byrd is suggesting, do something better than they're doing?
In my view, the central bank is operating in a fiduciary capacity regarding the member states within the Eastern Caribbean. And as the main source for distributing these notes, some sort of insurance policy should have been in effect to cover the loss or losses to member states and member citizens within the state or within the Eastern Caribbean states. Seemingly, although they were at the property of the Barclays Bank in Montserrat, they too should have been carrying insurance to protect whatever burglary or whatever property or whatever assets that had been stolen. And in that regard, they should be able to turn to the insurance company, whether it is the central bank, which seemingly is assuming the responsibility, and make good on that insurance policy simply because a burglary seemingly had taken place.
Edric, in fairness to the bank, though, they did issue another statement which, in essence, requests the cooperation and patience of the public as an investigation is going on into the theft in the first instance, and in the second instance the unauthorized circulation of the notes. So in view of that, is the central bank not acting in a responsible manner and maybe within the circumstances doing what they can do?
it would have been advisable for us to get a statement again from the central bank, maybe over the airways of Von Radio, over the radio station in St. Kitts, which is Ziz, and all the media bombarding us with information as to how we should go about reimbursement. You see, there are people who can hold a debt perpetually, but there are some people who cannot. And I'm saying at this juncture that a person who finds it terribly hard to be holding, let's say, $100 bill and cannot afford food for their families, some system should have been put in place to duly compensate those who cannot afford to wait a month, probably a year. Who knows when this problem would be solved? And this is the crux of the problem from my perspective. There are people who have the wherewithal to, in fact, hold 10, maybe 10,000 for the longest while. There are other people who cannot. And I would say that there are people who, in fact, the only savings they know is a savings at a bank. And sometimes that savings is not even well protected. So we are calling on the central bank to at least update the information as to how soon they'd be able to make good on this these kinds of money circulating within our community.
That was a Let's Talk program that was aired on May 26, 1998 on the topic Stolen EC Dollars in Montserrat.
Another year, another milestone. Since 1988, we've cherished its uniqueness, and it's the year that we began setting the tone. Who would have known of it becoming so homegrown? 37 years later, it's still the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean.
Von Radio.
Ready to save while you build? Now you can at Builders Paradise. Yes, shoppers, build up your Value Club points at Builders Paradise. That's right, Value Club members and shoppers, your favorite frequent buyer club is now available at the home of hardware and more. Whether you're laying tiles, painting walls, replacing doors, upgrading windows, or fixing up your home, every purchase at Builders Paradise now earns you Value Club points. Enjoy exclusive benefits like discounts on thousands of items, special savings for seniors, instant deals, quarterly rebates, plus an extra up to 2% off every quarter. Shop more, save more, earn more, only at Builders Paradise. Don't miss out. Start building your rewards today with Value Club at Builders Paradise, because every bolt, board, and brush brings you closer to bigger, better savings. Terms and conditions apply.
So that was Edric W. Stanley featuring. And I, by the way, my folks are the ones who selected these stuff. Some of them I'm hearing them for the first time again, you know, and stuff like that. And very interesting. Now, I made one or two little notes as I was listening that. And one of the notes that I made was this. Just before we went to that, I was talking about getting stories and information from persons and, you know, people you go and you say them, right? And the public will never know where you got that from. If it turns out to be bad information, those persons will never admit that they gave it to you, right? So Edric started out by saying, I had that same information. And then I noted, he said, he called the central bank because he knew he was coming on Let's Talk to deal with that topic. So what did he do? Call the central bank. And then he said, as a consequence of his failure to get anybody at the central bank, he wondered whether or not those numbers are working. The other thing, so what is interesting in that, I made a note and said, this thing, he's at the date, the year he gave was 1998. And I made a little notation also which says, this thing started a long time ago, happening a long time ago, where you call business places and offices that advertise such great service and give numbers, and nobody answers. What is happening now is just a proliferation of that. Some institutions, I don't know about your experiences, gentlemen, that you have. Some institutions you try to call sometimes for weeks, and you don't get them. So I made a note. Edric said he was calling and calling basically all day. He didn't get the institution. The other thing I noted is how he was clamoring for the ordinary people. You don't go as a big institution, issue some advisory, and then the ordinary people are not taken care of. Who's going to, you end up with these notes. It might be the only $100 a person had to buy food. Who's going to take care of that? Who is it the responsibility of somebody else? And so in that clip alone, it demonstrated clearly the kind of work he did on behalf of his people. And that is why I so appreciate what he had done all through those years. So, if you want to comment, gentlemen, you could go ahead and then I can read. It was a long story, but I'll just read a part of the story which says, Nevis radio station to be officially open today. And that was June 18, 1988. You wanted to comment, if I feel?
Webbo, I think that you are so correct, and Stanley was so correct. You know, when we come to the airwaves, you know, we have to make sure what we are saying, you know, could be substantiated, and no doubt hence the reason why Stanley wanted to contact the source, because we must be responsible. We would be held responsible, and I commended him. Well, you know, he's deceased really, but you know, for what he would have done, not just on that date, which he said was May 26, 1998, but throughout, and you know how he clamored, you know, for the ordinary man and woman. You know, I think that is really commendable, and as you deduce from it, you know, if the poor man had the last $100, you know, he might have done some work for Tom, and you know, now want to go to the supermarket to do a little grocery shopping. I mean, what he must do, go to the, you know, it's really, you know, so you know, the central bank, you know, really should have, you know, said something that could you know, help assist the poor man in the street. So once again, I really want to commend Stanley, although he's deceased. You know, I'm sure that his family, you know, and his legacy, the legacy that he has left behind, you know, would be, and has already been edged in stone, and you know, would continue to live on.
Yeah, I thought it was good work from Stanley. Good response, well thought of. Calling the bank to me make a lot of sense. Because the nature of the subject matter is as such that you would expect the bank to answer, you know, because they should be expecting some kind of communication. We're talking about money throughout the region. We're talking about what you call false notes, illegal notes in circulation. They should be up in taking the calls coming from any and everywhere, at least to hear more information. I mean, they've sent out, publicized some numbers, and to me, it would have been, you know, I mean, Webbo read the numbers, but I find they could have come off quite a problem for the everyday individuals to be aware that, look, I'm holding $100, that be you know, that number. I suppose that campaign had to be really massive campaign, in your face campaign, for people to to be aware of, of that they're holding some kind of illegal notes. And again, yes, I mean, who's going to give up a note? Who's going to give up money without compensation? And so he was right on target with that. I think it was very good work from Stanley in that particular. And he's always on top of the game, using words like fiduciary and quite intelligent individual, really, exhibiting the fact that there's a legal obligation between the bank and member countries and so forth, and so yes, Stanley was quite a rolling stone, quite knowledgeable, and he made reference to insurance. He said a bank, and of course, because you have your saving, how safe is your savings? He said that the bank should have had some kind of insurance. He was in that field of insurance too. So, and I agree with him, that when such things happen, I mean, some compensation can come towards the bank first and then towards the people. You got money in the bank and something happened, and I mean, that had happened before here in the Federation. There was a bank called Commercial Bank, Never heard about that?
Bank of Commerce.
Or something like that, yeah.
Bank of Commerce.
Bank of Commerce that went under, and a lot of people were dissatisfied with the outcome of their savings and so forth. So, Stanley was right on the ball. Enough respect. But Webbo, you read something from was it a Labour spokesman?
If I read it already?
Yeah.
No, I said they did a story on the opening of Von Radio.
Okay.
Nevis radio station to be officially open today. That was the story they did in 1988. So I said I would read.
Oh, you will read
a bit of it.
Okay, I thought that was the only thing they said about it.
No. You see, that's why you can't just go by. The official. This is the story now. The headline is Nevis radio station to be officially open today, and this was the issue Saturday, 18 June 1998. By the way, this was 25 cents for the paper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the official opening ceremony of the first radio station based in Nevis, the Voice of Nevis, Vaughan, is scheduled to come off later this morning, Saturday, June 18th, at the station studios located at Bat Village, Charlestown. Scores of overseas and local guests have been invited to the function announced to begin at 11 a.m. Among the invited guests are government officials in St. Kitts and opposition officials, including the leader of the Labour Party in St. Kitts, Comrade Lee Moore. The Labour spokesman has been invited to cover the proceedings. It is understood ZIZ Radio and TV have been formally invited to cover the event as well. Construction on the two-story building, which houses the 3 studios and a broadcast power output of 10,000 watts, began in January of this year. The station is owned and managed by a newly formed company in Nevis, the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited, which consists mainly of Nevisians residing overseas. The managing director of the Tortola-based radio station ZBVI Nevision Born, Mr. Webbo Herbert, is said to be the main driving force behind the station. Right? So that's about half of what is written there. Now, what's also interesting to point out, in this story, the part of the story, you notice it said everybody was invited, whether in government, opposition, or what.
Yes.
And that is the ethos of us, right? Everybody is included. Of course, some people try to spin it otherwise and fail. But that's us. You take care of yourself, everybody.
An open invitation.
Yes.
Even ZIZ was invited to cover the opening. I think that part was interesting. You know, another radio station is coming on board, can be a competitor in the field of broadcasting, I suppose. And yeah, it was quite all was invited, and that says a lot, really.
And all came.
And all came. Yeah.
You see, and we can segue into something else now, because what I had noted as something else to cover as well. You see what is happening internationally with the wars and the killings in the United States, and some analysts and commentators are putting it to the result of the rhetoric that has been practiced over the years. And I keep telling folks that I listened to a former FBI profiler, and they were asking him what kind of person would do this kind of thing. And I found it instructive. And he said that perhaps that person is a loser. That person is probably upset about something or some things. So as a result, they feel powerless. So they probably want to exercise power. That person is a person who then is not only angry, they now get a set of envy and jealous, because the people now who they see as successful, they're now asking, why can't I be like those persons? And then after the envy, it gets to rage. And it's frightening, because a lot of us find ourselves in that category or stage. When you begin to get jealous and envious of people for nothing, so to speak, then rage. And what I find is interesting, that was before they found the guy, and before they learned a lot about it, and he fit basically all those things. So this rhetoric, where you find that, for instance, in the islands, people are seeking to get into power. And what is their source and strategy? Cussing, and all these kind of things. We need to pay attention to them, because they mean it, and they're telling us who they are. How many of us have heard people now saying they did not know the current gentleman will do the things that he said he would do? When people tell you who they are,
Believe them.
maybe. When people show you who they are, believe them for sure. And don't dismiss it by saying, is Naya he cousin? That same venom, that's who the person is. So perchance you fall out of favor with them. If I feel.
Yes, Webbo, I think that, you know, the former FBI that you spoke of would have studied and know exactly what he was speaking about. And when we look at it and we analyze it, you know, I think that it is really making sense, and it's really food for thought. And we have to, you know, think deep, and not just on the surface of these things. You know, we would have lived to see in less than a year what is going on in the world. And as you would have said, when the gentleman said what he said, you know, some didn't believe, but it's now reality. And we have to try to put that in context in our everyday life, even on the job, in the churches, at school, at even social events. We have to be mindful and aware of our actions. Actions speak louder than words. That's an old saying, and a real saying. And we have to believe what is shown. I believe on the other side of it, that you spoke, Mr. Herbert, I believe that it's high time that we as a society, that we discuss issues instead of quote unquote cussing. How can I make myself a better person as an individual? How can me making myself a better person could make us collectively, better people? How can us make the island, a better society, a better federation, a better region? And I think that we ought to do some introspection. And I think that we would come to the realization that cussing is not the answer. Issues, being frank, learning and appreciating to disagree to agree for the benefit of the masses. I believe that is the way to go if we want to, build constructively, build whatever it is, our society, our homes, our workplace, the island, the federation.
Well, we can speak of goodness and goodwill all day. We can speak of truth, and then there is the question of which truth. There is a question of definitions. Today, in this world of information circulation in such ways, and it is very difficult. Everyone has a voice, okay, and everyone seems to have a right. There's this competitiveness about something that everybody had a closer agreement with probably in the past. There's a lot more question these days than before. And so when we speak of truth and rights, even that, within that, those words seems to have such variations these days, But I think there is something named morality, and morality is morality home and abroad. We're talking about international morality. And good and evil, right and wrong, these opposite extremes sometimes in these times get a little blurred, and I suppose it's fueled by the rise in such information that exists today. I would tell you something, and the first thing you do, you run to Google, and you would try to tell me what you're reading is right. But then there's so many things you would find on the internet which is not right, which is incorrect. There's so many people want to make money from the internet that they just say things and hoping they can get a hit, or many hits, or millions of hits. We're talking about cussing. Sometimes that's what stimulates the crowd. Sometimes that's what brings the crowd out to political campaigns. Just like how you would go on TikTok and you stay there all day just a laugh to yourself because things are so funny, all the funny things on TikTok. You understand? And so to me it's a troubled world where things are not very much defined, or there seems to be more than one definition existing for everything these days. And you would easily realize that your little son and daughter seems to know more than you, who bring them into the world because they are so much exposed to information, wide range of information, you know, and so it's almost like a completely different mindset we're dealing with. And sometimes if you go down the political avenue, you would realize whatever a politician thinks the crowd will enjoy, he or she is going to speak it because he's looking for following, you know. And so if we the people probably do not ask for a better debate, and there are people who are always asking for a better debate, but how much that is flushed with hearsay, jokiness, cursing, insinuations, you know. And I could remember in the past, previous political campaign, when Honorable Denzel Douglas was the leader of the Labour Party. I mean, when you hear Douglas is speaking, everyone run to there. Everyone wants to listen, you know. Well, he lost the election in that era because he was just too much of himself, almost like a political comic, you know. And he probably thought that was good, but then there was a serious side to things, I suppose. Anyway, he lost. But things are very much ill-defined these days. And whatever means, whatever rhetoric needs to be employed, it's going to be employed. You know, the rise today of other technological situations seems like elections and so forth, and even people's character can be seriously damaged by just the rhetoric. And believe it or not, they put something out there about an individual and it's quite funny. They seems to attract supporters by doing that, even though if it's not true, you know. And depends on how much the public is laughing and passing it on to each other. The individual who is the victim becomes the political loser. So things are very twisted these days. Artificial intelligence is going to really screw things up in a big way if, like, the electorate are not seriously mindful and seriously conscious of the real issues, you know. I mean, I hear a lot of things here on Nevis. Both political parties cuss each other and try to make joke of each other. Sometimes it's not funny. It's not funny at all, because what I see coming out of it is a high level of disrespect. High level of disrespect to individuals, you know, people making mark of people and the clothes they're wearing and all this foolishness. You know, when really, I think respect should be given to the elders and the older ones, and there should be respect across the board, to be quite honest, you know. and not to personalize everything and, you know, pinpoint individuals and try to really dog them out, you know. But I think going forward, the rhetoric should be turned down. But there are other influences. I mean, I don't know the case about the guy shooting some people in America, but I'm sure he may be in some way being politically wind up in some way or the other. Some strong supporter of one political side and not a supporter of the other political side has something to do with what is going on in Israel and the Palestinian and the way things are running globally now. I mean, a lot of that is going to be surfacing, and they always have some deep grievances anyway, very unhappy about either their personal life or the way they view the world. And then you ask yourself, who's responsible? Who's responsible for all that? You know, an individual in the world coming through probably with a family, you know, the insurance companies is giving trouble, don't want to live up to their obligation. You turn on the news, you see so much killing, so much hungry, starving people. You know, you listen to a president who seems to be, you know, far right in certain circumstances, and you find it hard to hold yourself together sometimes. For some people, and I suppose we will be dealing with a huge rise in the cases of like mental challenges. That's on the rise in a big way. You know that, Mr. Five-Q. That cases of mental challenges and what we call craziness is massively on the increase today. Loneliness. You know, the four of us are around the table and we emailing each other when we can talk to each other. And so it's these kind of things. It's difficult to understand, but it's what's happening, and you really got to swim through these murkiness, and hopefully you can tag along with some people who are, you know, hope for betterment and a better outcome in things, you know. And so it's the world today.
Yes. Now, you spoke to mental and I suppose mental health, and I think it's something real. It's something that, you know, probably need to be looked into in a more holistic way. Why I'm saying that, you know, we flash back our minds to a few days ago when we learned about the crash of the Air India plane. And then there were reports that all the persons on board died. And then there was another report, and there are reports that one person survived miraculously. And we all sang and still singing praises to God for that one person's life, sparing that one person's life. Now we have learned over the past day or two that that individual has now been arrested and under investigation. And I'm going to tell you how it links to mental and mental health. What the investigators have gleaned through the scanners or the video surveillance, that is that the same gentleman would have breached security and went to the aircraft and apparently planted something on the aircraft. Now, if that comes out to be truthful, and that same individual would have boarded the plane knowing that it's going to go down, I want to believe that that individual has a mental issue. I can't see a right thinking person would have done something like that and still board. But then again, there are different people, there are different mindsets, there are different beliefs out there. But when we look at that more in depth, why would I open an aircraft door moments before it explodes? How do I know that it's going to explode and at what time for me to open the door moments before?
Well, if you set the device, you know what time it's supposed to go off, how long it's going to, you know what time it's going to go off.
Yeah. But
so someone survived that flight then? This is the first time I'm hearing that.
Yes. One individual.
And
amazingly, that, mind you, the plane blew up, big ball of fire. And that one individual, he actually walked. He walked from the area with just a few, what I would want to say, a few scratches. You know, it's not even, the scratches don't even look as bad as when you get a fall from a donkey. You know, and if you to understand it from that perspective. So I want to believe that, you know, the mental issue link there. You know, if what the investigators are suggesting is actually so, that is. And this would bring rise to a number of things. You know, the breaches of certain codes for airport security, you know, how they are going to treat them going forward. And it's going to trickle right down to us right here in the region and in St. Kitts Nevis. You know, how do we secure our ports? What mechanism we put in place? And not just mechanism, the personal resources, the manpower. How do we man it? You know, do we have? Do we move into armed security at our ports, or more armed security at our ports, to try to avoid, you know, any occurrence of such that allegedly happened in India? We are now a small village, a global village. 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we may not have known or heard, at least so quickly, of what transpired. You know, everything is basically going real time throughout the world. And the people are networking. And you spoke to AI, and just like any other thing, just like the cell phones, it has its good, it has its bad. It's the question is how do we use them? What purpose do we use them for? Do we use them for a good, Do we use them for a bad? To denigrate and pull down other persons? And frightening with the AI, because there are some persons out there who are very technologically savvy, and with AI now, we can just imagine what they can do. And you spoke to politics, and I can see this panning out right here in St. Kitts Nevis. Because over the years, at political meetings, as I think you would have alluded to, persons go to political meetings for a number of reasons. Some go because they want to hear the issues. They want to know what your plans are, how you're going to move the country forward. Other persons go because of the hype, how much you can giggle and jump and laugh about the negative that you hear about another individual. There are alleged cases where tapes would have been spliced, cut and spliced, and those would have done so neatly. But with the advancement of AI, I suppose that it's going to go almost seamlessly. And imagine you can have a video of me, a picture of me, my lips moving, and something that appears to be utterances from me with my voice, or a voice that sounds like me, that is not actually me. To what ends would we go if we do not intend to put issues on the table? To what ends would we go if we do not intend to discuss the issues for the advancement of Nevis, St. Kitts Nevis, its nationals, its citizens and residents? And these are questions that we have to ask ourselves. As nationals, as citizens, as residents, what do we settle for? What do we want? How do we communicate what we want to those who aspire to lead us and to those who are leading us, so we can lift our game? We could be the standard, the gold standard, the gold star of politics, so to speak, in the region. Persons in the region look towards St. Kitts Nevis to emulate us. Some years ago, I think it might have been maybe in the late 90s, perhaps, early, we were once the world's freest nation. And because of that accolade, persons look towards us. And I dare say that we can, have something positive in the sights of others so they can look towards us. Not in a negative way, not in the spotlight because of negativity, but in the spotlight because of positivity, forward thinking. And I believe if we were to achieve that, I believe that St. Kitts and Nevis would continue to climb up and onwards.
I think that's a great wish. Not sure how much we will realize that, because power corrupts, and in one's earn for power, any means that's necessary is sometimes employed, and it's very serious. It's not as light as we are talking it here, and hope that the good would be, would come out of every individual.
Of course not.
That individual in a well-dressed suit, nice and everything, looks good, speaks well, you'll be surprised to know, in order to get power, the deviousness, the immorality, whatever is to be employed, is sometimes employed. But you speak about mental health as it relates to an individual who might have planned a bomb on a plane and planned to be traveling on the plane. And that seems to, that makes me reflect on the actors, that create the 9/11 situation against other people, other people, because they're trying to, it's a means to an end, they're trying to be a part of this sometimes global disagreement or global, global warfare as it relates to one religion, global influence, global respect, and so forth. And people are easily willing to give their life up just to take others with them.
Sadly.
And in many cases, their family are taken care of. Enough times it's very much prearranged. And you can measure it in terms of mental illness, or, you got to probably put it down to fate, which is something that's very difficult to define, and so we hope that we don't see that type of things that are happening in our region, but for those who are carrying out a lot of these evil acts, for instance, for those who are overseeing and aiding.
Naya, just let me get this for you. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think we're being very simplistic if we just put it down to things like mental illness. When we look at what is happening today, where apparently there's no such thing as collateral damage, right? Where if you send a missile or a drone to bomb innocent people, it seems to be okay, or there's nothing that the world can do to stop it. And that seems to be reverting to a time when essentially might is right. And when that becomes the order of the day, you know what normally follows after. And that is, we don't like to to fathom it, but it's usually terrorism. Okay? And I'm afraid that in going backwards the way we're doing, it's really fomenting radical behavior again, of the kinds that we saw in the Semtil, and, you really didn't want to go back there, but that is where it seems to be heading, because I can't imagine the kind of pain that is being inflicted now on people that they'll just lie down and take it, or the survivors will just lie down and take it, or the generations to come are just not going to remember. You know, I mean, much has been said about the fact that, well, we bombed the hell out of Germany and Japan, but look, they're our friends today, our allies today. But these things leave lasting scars, and it's not looking pretty for the next generation, I think. Right? We thought we were progressing pretty well, slow but progressing in terms of the rule of some kind of morality. But it seems to be going backwards now, unfortunately.
Caller, I could ask you a question. I could engage you. You don't think it began to erode that based on what we then began to accept and tolerate?
What did we accept and tolerate?
No, you said that we were going along nicely and everything.
Oh, yes.
And then
This was a New World Order, right?
Right. And then afterwards, we began to accept and tolerate this sort of rhetoric that we were talking about, and then it became normalized.
Well, the thing is, it was not just rhetoric. We're almost...
No, but it start with that, and then it elevate, not correct?
No, it starts with powerful men doing what most powerful men do.
Okay, give me an example. Walk with me. Give me an example. Walk with me. Give me an example of what they did before the rhetoric. Before they did any rhetoric.
For example, what's happening in Gaza. There was no rhetoric.
Oh, really?
There was a response. No, there was a response.
There's always ongoing war of words and all sort of thing, and threats and so on between those entities.
Yes, but look at
how... But that's what I'm saying. And then when a person feels it not getting their way, then it comes to that. Not correct?
No. If somebody feels that, well, somebody else instigated something, true or not, and then lashes out, there was no time for rhetoric.
Let me ask you this. This thing with Gaza and stuff like that, you think it just began?
No, it didn't.
Okay.
But
let me ask you this.
To.
Okay, let me ask. I always wanted to ask this question, and you seem like a very well-read and knowledgeable fellow. I wondered, when they took the hostages, right?
Yeah.
And let us say they took about 300. Let's use that as a hypothetical, right?
Oh.
And it seems to me as if they are so hell-bent on getting these 300 hostages that they wouldn't mind killing 3,000 people to get them.
300,000.
300,000, yeah.
Yeah. But that's the whole point, though. It was not about... Obviously, it was not just about the hostages. If those hostages were released, or even if they didn't take those hostages, the fact that over 1,000 Israelis were killed, Gaza was going to get destroyed.
Yeah, right. But let's narrow it down. What I'm saying is that they have, let's say we said 300 hostages, and you use the 300,000, which I'll accept, right, as part of the hypothetical. So they're still making noise saying, until we get every one of those 100, they'll go ahead and maybe kill another 300,000 more.
Yeah.
So, am I missing something? I don't get...
No, they would. And that's what I'm saying. There's no morality in this anymore. Right? None whatsoever. I do not understand how so-called civilized nations could... There used to be a term of, well, innocence. Okay? Now it seems as if nobody is innocent. No woman, no children, no on the side, non-combatants or whatever they want to call them.
Let me
There's
ask
no
you.
innocent people now.
Yeah, right. Let me ask you this, if I may, specifically though. How much you think the rhetoric is contributing to the violence that we are seeing?
Where you mean?
All across, including at home.
Oh, I guess I would say yes, that it contributes to it. There's a lack of tolerance now throughout. Okay, I think we've become kind of dehumanized. I don't know if it's the technology. It's so much easier to stay behind a screen and throw the worst kind of do the worst kind of inciting. It's easy to stay at in a F-35 or whatever it is now, and just drop a bomb on supposedly a target, and forgetting that they are innocent close by. It's so easy to do now, and from the looks of things, it's going to become easier, where we dehumanize people. This AI thing, where you had this study report where a CEO said in the next 5 years, as close as that, 10 to 20% of white-collar jobs will be replaced. I mean, these are people. So what do they do?
Yeah, but the truth is, but that doesn't mean that the 20% of those people won't get monies, because what has been happening now is that people are finding ways of giving people money without work. That's not correct?
Isn't that dehumanizing?
Well, I'm not going to argue with you that is not, but what I'm saying is that not so?
Yes,
okay.
Well, they'd have to do something, yeah.
Okay.
And it should have been before this too. As soon as technology started improving productivity, we should have found ways to help those people that would be in this place, whether it be a 4-day work week or some 30-hour work week instead of the 40 or something.
You mean help them other than just giving them money?
Other than just giving them money.
Okay.
Yeah, share the work, use the productivity gains to share the work so that people feel that they're being useful. You can't have people, I don't think men were built like that.
And that's a very good point you made, caller. I commend you for that, because I don't hear it as part of the debate at all, that people feel useful.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they really want to be. But that's very important for your psyche and all that.
And for the preservation of the society.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes. Naya.
Actually, I had a conversation today with a young man, and I just want to say good evening to him, Jevon. He's work on the dock. He's a very hard worker, and we were talking about people who just doesn't work and get paid. I find him to be quite a helpful guy.
There are such people?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
And they will agree with you?
Who they would agree with me? Oh, well, those people?
Yeah.
They probably would not.
So
because once they left home at mornings, they're going to work. Whether or not they engage in a process or a responsibility, they left home to go to work.
But
and so they are working.
You admit they probably will not agree with you.
They probably will not agree with me.
So help me to decide of whether I should believe that person or you. Meaning, you said that person is getting paid and did not work.
Yes.
The person is differing with you.
Yes.
I I'm the person now without the facts or the information. How you persuade me to believe you rather than them? Because they're going to tell you plain they work real hard.
Yes.
So,
Well, first, let's just establish that this is hypothetical. Okay?
oh, so this is not real. I thought you were.
No,
giving me real-
no. The conversation between me and you is going off on a hypothetical basis.
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm not
So, in
pointing
other words,
anyone.
you're sitting in Edric's seat, so you disconnected me without me
No,
knowing.
no. Webbo, listen
But
to
you
me.
just-
No. What did I say?
You said that the conversation between you and me went off on something and it became a hypothetical.
Yeah, because it's applicable to every situation and every individual and not anyone in particular. So I deem it hypothetical. Okay? And you are asking me a question that if someone left home in the morning to go to work, and I'm of the opinion that he or she is not functioning in a responsible way, not contributing to any production as such in any way. And I'm here to tell you, well, that's the case. But the individual who leaves home every morning say, well, he goes to work, and you're asking me to convince you that the individual is not doing any work.
And you're saying that you can't do that when
No.
you can't even convince yourself.
No, I'm trying to say to you that I can convince you if you're open to be convinced. But
I
you can obviously set up a block
No,
that I would not get through to you.
but that's
And
what I'm
so
saying.
you occupy that position as to, well, I don't know who to believe.
No, work with me, Naya.
No, well, I may force to employ some kind of measuring standards within a hypothetical discussion as we are.
No, we're not hypothetical, and this thing is
I would
real.
find it difficult.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. Do we have people in the society
Yes.
who go to work and do not produce but get paid?
Yes.
Okay, we're not going to call any names.
Yes.
Okay. So it is a real situation that's happening.
Yes.
Okay. Those persons, let us say that one is Fifield, right?
Yes.
Now comes the hypothetical. And you tell me that Fifield goes to work and he does not produce. So he should not be paid. So I'm the minister now in charge of his department. So I call in Fifield and I said, my information is, and the evidence, that you don't produce. Fifield says, and I think I need a raise, I work in so hard. He gets an opportunity to make his case to me that he is working hard and he needs a raise. Right? But you said he is not producing.
Yes.
Right? So I'm the minister. How you have to persuade me, and he has to persuade me. He have to make the case. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So when you get a chance to make your case, Naya, make your case. Don't just say, "Oh well, you're not going to believe me." Make a believe out of me. Because
Well, I do understand what you're saying, you know, Webbo.
Oh, you understand me.
I do understand what you're saying. And
Next
I
week,
don't
walk with
think
me. Next week, I'm going to move you from that seat because you're behaving just like Edric now. Edric normally behave well, and then he will say, and then I say, so I got you. He's going to say, no. Okay, so I think we're on the same page.
we're on the same page,
Yeah, okay.
because I guess in that particular situation, you would probably ask for some kind of evidence. And of course, I'll provide it.
Let me teach you about making a case. The worst thing you can do is give me the opportunity to make my case. Because I'm making it.
Well, I suppose I would agree with you to say that don't say you have a case unless you can make a case.
Yeah, that's once I'm Once you see me come to make a case, it's just cheap, you just walk with me. Fifield.
But back to the point I was making.
Fifield wanted to let me know how I did with you.
I was going
Well, I believe that. Well, I don't know if you study law and you hide it from us, because I find you to be a really good cross-examiner of the evidence and the facts. You know, and
well, once my staff will tell you, I always tell the story. Once you don't do me like this. Well, I was a salesman once. A lady came in the store, and I making my case for her to buy something. And when I'd made the case, she looked at me, she shook her head. She said, "You're a good salesman." And I watched that lady walk through the door without buying a thing. So I hope you're not hope you're not doing the same thing.
Probably she was convinced, but she didn't have the money.
She didn't have the money.
It's a possibility.
Well, all she had to do is ask me to pay for it for her. A fella, well, the time for a light moment. A fella did me that in CDS one day. A number of folks in CDS, this fellow walks in, sort of impaired. And I looked at him, and I don't know if he was bluffing, because they say everybody knows me. But he turns to me and he says, "Do you all have so-and-so?" As if he performing like I'm walking there. So I see he's kind of impaired, so I looked around and I saw what he was asking for on the shelf. So I said, "Oh sure, look, it's right here." So I took it up and gave him so he could get in line. So he said, "Oh, thank you. Could you please pay for it for me?" I said, "That fellow is good." So I paid for it.
That's a good deed.
The next day I see him, he was not walking with the aids. I said, "That guy is good." He made his case. Yeah, so anyway, now you wanted to.
I was just highlighting with the conversation I have today the impact on society when such things happen. Actually, when there is that massive leakage of funds going somewhere and there's no production coming from it, really. And so I wanted to highlight that. And you find if you have too much of that in any society, the society goes nowhere. And I find I'm seeing a lot of that around here, and I do hope that and it makes me start thinking about this double pay that people argue about when Christmas come, from the government, because a lot of the cases that I observe basically are government workers, and so I do hope that it is not as widespread as I think it is. And I don't know if it's our kind of political culture where we just employ people and don't have nothing for them to do, or they just decide, well, we don't really have to do nothing, so we sit around all day and go home at the end of the day. But I believe much of that is quite destructive to the financial flow, circular flow of expenditure and income and production. And you see sometimes we say in Nevis we can't find people to work, and the leaders will say, "Oh, there's full employment, and full employment is not always a good thing. Full employment simply means that the island is operating at a capacity in terms of production of goods and services. But when you see nothing producing, is to ask themselves the question, what is going on? And I think we're dealing with that kind of circumstance here in our little island called Nevis. But and it's just something that one have to observe in every situation where employers meet employee, responsibility meets, am I making sense, Mr. Highfield?
Well, I'm listening to you. I'm listening.
Well, I also know that you're a government worker, and sometimes when we speak about double salary and not to have it forthcoming based on certain reasons, government workers don't like that. I'm not saying that you're one of them who would think that way, but all that I'm saying, I do believe that when you're paid to work, you come and honor that responsibility.
Yes.
Okay? That's basically what I'm saying.
Yes, and it's just like any other thing, we need money to spend. Persons getting money, once it's through legal means, would accept it 99.9% of the times. And what would have happened in recent times is that people, in my opinion, would have grown accustomed to get a double salary at the end of the year. Now, prior to that, it's like it would happen not annually, but when certain special situations, so to speak, arise. It would happen, and it would catch us by surprise, so to speak, and it would have probably meant a lot more. But now it's like you have grown accustomed, as I said, to get it every year. So you look forward for it, regardless of what. And then not getting it, it appears as if that you would have lost something, when in actuality you would not have lost anything, because in the first instance you would not have worked for it. It is like I think the saying is a little goat water at the end of the year to kind of to say thank you, so to speak, for the work that you would have done over the past 12 months. We appreciate it. And I mean, personally, if someone gives me money legally, as I said, and we as government workers, could look at it as, a reward. Now the question would be, if we should we set criteria, and who would be eligible to receive based on the criteria? That might be a different conversation, because maybe all workers may not be performing at the same level for various reasons, and that is something that would merit a conversation at probably another time. We probably, because of time constraint, can't go deep into it, but for now that is what I would say.
Who's got the last word?
Webbo, I just want to say congratulations again on the attainment of the 37th year of existence. I want to say congratulations, happy anniversary tomorrow. May God continue to bless you and your entire staff. And just to hail out Wilson and Rona in the US and Ermin in Canada, special good night to you. And Webbo, long live VON Radio, the powerhouse of the entire Eastern Caribbean.
Well, we want to say thanks for the time that you have and your organization, your institution have served Nevis. You have served Nevis well, and I wish you many more years of success. And I tip my hat for your commitment to the high standards which you have set from the beginning throughout the 37 years. And I want to say thanks to all the staff, the entire staff from the beginning up to this point, for contributing to an institution that is seriously impacting the little island of Nevis and the region.
You know, gentlemen, in one of the clips I heard this morning, it was a group giving a contribution to the Alexandria Hospital and Vaughan Radio for their service after the hurricanes of 1995. And I was telling the staff, it was interesting because the names of the persons who formed this committee, I'm not sure if I know them now, but they went out and they raised funds and gave a donation because they think that the station had done a good service, and the hospital as well. And so that's the kind of thing that we need to continue and or get back to. You know, helping one another and encouraging. And I told people from day one, don't worry about me, right? You all support the station because it will outlast me. It has already outlasted a lot of folks who have done very good contributions, right? And so support it, and you all will have it. And you know, Naya and Fifield and all the others who contributed in any way, we all appreciate it, and we have to look at it as us. We would not always get it right, but we just keep trying, right? And even the criticisms, right? That's okay too. But the kind of rhetoric that we were talking about, and you all know me not afraid, I think you must stop it. The criticism is okay. We understand that. You don't like this, but the deep rhetoric, you all must stop it. About maybe 20 years ago, when we had a lot of that going on, I used to use a phrase, a campaign, don't teach the children to hate. And a certain group of people tell people to cuss me. And see what we end up with. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Join Keith Scarborough at 8 o'clock on Thursday evening for Government at Work, a place where you can spend all of your evenings right here in the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, talk that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Views and opinions expressed